My name's Brian Scriber, and I'm a distinguished technologist here at CableLabs. I'm also the Vice President for the Security and Privacy Technologies team. One of the things that really drew me to the role that I have at CableLabs is the ability to influence an industry that is massive. These are everybody that delivers digital services to end users. All of that is part of a network experience. My role here and what really excites me is the ability to steer that ship and to be able to engage in standards bodies and drive new ideas and make things easier for network operators, but ultimately for the subscribers for these services. We're very serious about it when we ask, what's the worst that could happen? How do we look at reliability across the network? That is part of what we look at in security, right? So the triad of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the reliability is a big part of what security does. So some of the other technologies that we're looking at and where we engage security, we talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, large language models. We're not looking at it as the naysayers. We're looking at it like, hey, you're gonna need this if you're gonna advantage your companies and your networks. And so if you're gonna employ these technologies, how do you do so with guardrails, with the idea of security in mind, and how do you stop the abuse of this technology? How do you recognize it? How do you mitigate those threats? And how do you make this very usable? If you're going to do security right, you're going to do it so that it makes life easier for the consumer, not so they have to remember 50 more passwords or go through a bunch of extra hoops. If we do it right, it becomes kind of transparent. There is a focus area for security and privacy technologies, and in that area, we're looking at things like zero trust architectures and building out zero trust and infrastructure security, best common practice. So we work with standards bodies on how to best manage subscriber protected information. We engage in a lot of projects around CableLabs. So in advanced technologies, and we look at where we're going with cryptography. When we look at seamless connectivity and how we enable that. When we look at some of the optical networking and driving some of the security into specifications. When we look at what's going on with DOCSIS, we're always looking at how we can update and make sure that the security protocols remain fresh and that we're enabling that. I would love to talk about seamless connectivity and how security and privacy fits in this. It should happen in a way that's transparent to the user. And that network experience where you're on a mobile network, you are on a Wi-Fi network, you are on a wired network, your experience as a subscriber should be that you are trusting the networks that you have engaged and that your experience should be able to move between those appropriately. And designing this and understanding from that subscriber perspective how this could be used is one aspect of the tech vision, but the tech vision also looks at it from that network operator perspective to be able to organize networks in a new way and allow new services. One of those, from a seamless connectivity perspective, is how we've worked with CableLabs custom connectivity, and that's allowed us to do things like pole-mounted Wi-Fi to be able to, in high-density areas around the world, where you can bring more subscribers in, and they can still have their own custom experience. This allows you to do things like, hey, I can now cast from my phone to my television because I'm on a protected shared network. One of the most meaningful parts of my career was watching how this family looked at this new technology. The students, the kids in the family would huddle around a phone and they would do Khan Academy mathematics using the phone. When we showed them how they could take that and cast it to the television in the home and be able to interact with the TV, the family can engage in an economy that they were not able to engage in before. And we're seeing this deployed now. Our security and privacy technology lab is a fun place to engage. We have what's colloquially known as the Chamber of Secrets. but it is our ceremony room for digital certificates related to the PKI. So this is where we do some of the work and preparation with our hardware security modules to enable security around the industry. We have a IoT security lab, and here we're looking at the smart home, we're looking at the devices that come into the home. There are several devices that have very poor security around some of those technologies. We're trying to improve that. We've got a privacy protection lab. We have a 5G security lab. When we look at the tech vision, when we look at where security fits, the reason security exists is because there are threat actors, there are misconfigurations, there are things that can happen, and we want to try to find ways to mitigate those risks. We're trying to find ways where we can enable technologies to make it more efficient to protect and adequately defend networks than it costs to attack. If there's one thing that I could engage people on, it's really to look at the security and privacy technologies, the outputs from this organization. How do you adopt this? And how do we make sure that we have the right people inside our organizations that are engaged and listening in this? The working groups are one way to engage. The adoption and review of some of the materials that we can publish, that we engage with on standards bodies, to make sure that we're talking to each other to drive the same kind of outcome that benefits the industry.